Hello, my name is Cam Hall, the head of news here at Raw 12:51 AM, and today I'm here with the Democracy and Development Officer for Warwick Students' Union, Jacob Jefferson. Now, of course, it's a big week here on campus as it's the autumn elections, a real opportunity to get involved in student democracy, whether you're standing as a candidate or whether you're just a student looking to vote and really shape the future of the Students' Union this week. Well, let's bring on Jacob now to talk more about that and student democracy here at Warwick in general. Jacob, thank you for joining me today.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on. An important week for the SU, so it's really important that we actually get out and speak to all of our members, and this is a great way to do it.
Well, thank you for taking the time, Jacob. Now, of course, you are democracy and development. Today, we're just talking about one of the Ds in your role, the democracy part. So let's start off with the autumns themselves. Talk to us. Of course, there'll be a lot of students. It'll be the first time they've been on campus. They don't know what the autumn elections are. I guess, firstly, what are the autumn elections?
So it's probably important to lay out that, we have two big sets of elections. We got autumn elections and spring elections. And spring elections is when people elect, those obviously in spring, February, March time. Those are when we elect the main leadership of the Students' Union, because those are for the roles which are for full-time roles. So that's what I got elected in February, and I've been in this job since August and here for a year. Our autumn elections for a variety of roles. We have some part-time officer roles. Some are elected in February, but others are elected now. And there's a few which didn't have any candidates in February, but we now have up for election now in August. So that's in August in the autumn elections. That's environment and ethics officer and disabled officer. And it's, by the way, really pleased to see that we've got lots and lots of people going for those roles. So I think that was just a one-off in terms of not having anyone standing for those roles. And then we also elect our student union committees. So there's a committee for each officer position or element of officer position. For example, there's a democracy committee and a development committee. So there isn't a joint one just for my role. And those committees, basically, they're sort of to scrutinise each officer, but also to help develop policy ideas. They have their own different functions. And just a really good way to start engaging with the SU. And those committees, can funnel ideas into student council. And student council is sort of our main decision-making body, which is made up of full-time officers, part-time officers, and the elected chairs of each of those committees. So it's a really fundamental part of how SU democracy works. And we're pleased that we've got really loads of candidates. There are more candidates than positions, which is always the good thing. There are no uncontested roles. And I guess the thing now is we want people to vote.
Absolutely. And of course, it's not just obviously the committees that you mentioned, the part-time officer roles as well, but also academic representation is up for election this week. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Of course, yeah. So we've got there's sort of the course reps, so reps for individual courses, so different joint honour combinations, a rep for each year of each course as well. Then we also got our department and faculty rep. So the faculty reps already happen. There's a department. There's some faculty reps happen in spring. It's slightly complicated, but main thing is department reps as well. And again, these are really, really important ways to get feedback to your to your lecturers, to your heads of department, because each of those academic people are elected. They have regular meetings with the academic staff, and they're really, really easy sort of middle person between the students. And it's really important because they do elect them as well, so they will know who their reps are. They should know if they do vote, and those are really important as well. I remember in my second year, I actually really used my course rep. They're really, really helpful to me, because there were some issues which came up. In my second year is when we had issues with strikes, and everyone was pushing for extensions on work, for a lot of our assignments, and this course reps are really important. So I think people underestimate how important and how influential those course reps actually can be within each of their departments.
Indeed. And of course, with the autumn elections, there's a lot of opportunities for students to vote and to really engage in the campaigns this week. Talk to us, I guess, a little bit more. What can students who've not experienced an autumn election week, what can they expect to see over the coming week?
Well, hopefully a lot of campaigning. Mainly will be social media, just because I think that's the way we're trying to go now from an environmental point of view as well. Because usually, you get these election things and there's posters everywhere. Even in spring elections is the main one where there's posters everywhere, but autumn elections as well. We'll hopefully just see people really reaching out and trying to. Obviously, they're offering issues to students, but things might come up during the week, and they can take those on as policies as well. But I'd recommend everyone to obviously when you're going on that SU website to vote, to actually read everyone's manifestos. People have put a lot of time and effort into these, not just the written content, but also the fancy graphics and designs, and so some really nice looking manifestos there. And a lot of people certainly will have very different opinions and very different views on the directions of the university and the Students' Union. So it's actually really important that there's that choice there for students as well, and it's not just people saying the same things and finding it difficult to say there's two people saying the same thing who I'm meant to vote for, but there will be people there saying different things, and that's really important for for the debate that we have in the Students' Union, because we want differing points of view. I think in the past, we haven't had as many differing points of view, haven't had as much diverse opinion, but I think we're getting to a good place now where we can. And I think us as student union officers, what we're really looking for this year is to really represent what our students vote for and how they vote. I think in the past, this isn't criticising any individuals or anything, but I think in the past there hasn't been as much engagement with actually what students want throughout the year. Obviously people are elected to positions. But democracy isn't just a one-off thing. It has to happen throughout the year. It has to be reflective. We have to keep going back to our students throughout the year. And for example, we've used our. I hope lots of people I know lots of people did fill out, because I had a really good response. I think it was one of our best ever responses to a survey. We had our teaching and learning survey, which was running last week, and the data we get from that we are going to use to talk to the university about teaching issues, to talk to departments. So as a team, we want to be really reactive to the ongoing changes in students' opinion throughout the year, not just at one point.
You've placed a real emphasis on this week being a crucial week for students to have their voices heard. Of course, for any students right now who don't know how to vote in this week's autumn elections, how can they vote? Yeah,
so it's on the SU website. There will be emails throughout the week. There'll be social media posts, but also you can just go straight to the SU website, and it should be the first thing on there. I'll make sure it is if it isn't, but it should be the first thing that comes up on the homepage. If you go through there, and it's important point is it's preferential voting. It's not like first past the post where we have in our general elections where you just vote for one candidate and the person with the most votes, no matter the margin gets through. We have preferential voting, so you can list the candidates, first, second, third preference. There'll be some positions where you can go down to about 15th preference if you want to, because that's how many people we have standing for some roles. And it means that if your first, second, third preferences don't win, the people you vote for on those further down the list will get votes too. It's actually really important. Really important point to make, because I think in the past, I think a lot of Warwick students just think they have one vote because they're used to general election, local election systems like we have in England, especially. But you can vote. You can make sure you use your full ballot, because that's more democratic, and that means we can be better representative.
And just one last thing as well on voting in the autumn elections this week. Of course, the polls will have opened when this interview comes out. When is the deadline to vote by?
So polls open 9 a.m. on Monday, and they close Friday at 12 p.m. And hopefully we'll be able to get some results out on Friday afternoon. Sometimes the last few years there's been a bit of drama sometimes that means it's delayed till Monday, but we're very keen to try and get them out Friday afternoon so that, when week 4 comes around, all those committees would be in place already and already getting to work. Each of those committees would be meeting in week 4 of term. So we want to get that turnaround really quickly. We've got training as well for them. So we want to get that turnaround a lot quicker than it sometimes has been.
Indeed. And of course, Raw News will be here to bring you all the results as we get them, of course, on Friday, over the weekend, on Monday as well. Let's move on now, I guess, to student democracy more generally. Of course, the autumn elections is not the only way to get involved in student democracy this term. The all-student vote will be taking place later on this term. I guess, firstly, what is the all-student vote? And secondly, how can students get involved in it?
So the all student vote is basically a series of referenda. So what was the plural? Is it referenda or referendums? I still haven't.
I've always thought it was referenda personally.
Yeah, I know it's slightly confusing, but basically the referendums, we have them several times throughout the year, there'll be many as are submitted, but there'll be a range of motions which students can vote on for whether they want the student union to take that up as policy. And they've always been very wide-ranging. Last year, the big engagement one was about online teaching. There's sometimes political ones. There's sometimes ones about workers' rights, library spaces, for example, study space. But they're really, those all student votes have been one of the biggest areas, and we've actually had the highest democratic engagement. I think, as I said, last year that online teaching motion, I think it had about 5,000-6,000 people voting it, which is one of the highest in a long time. And by the way, anyone could put a motion up for all student vote. It's not just people directly involved right now in SU democracy. So if you go onto the SU website and if you find the Make Your Mark tab, there'll be a web page which shows you how to write a motion. There'll be a motion template. And by the way, if that isn't clear enough, then please do email me or democracy@warwicksu.com. And we can help explain it. But anyone can submit motions on any range of ideas and policies. Some of those will go, those once motions are submitted, they'll go through various committees, not to reject or accept them, but just to make sure they fit certain criteria about what we can actually discuss. And there are some issues which, if they're most things will end up going through to all student vote. It's very rare that at those committee stages things are altered with, but that's just an important sort of process point that they do have to go through committees just in case there's any issues with them.
Absolutely. Of course, once motions have gone through committee stage to the all student vote itself, I guess what week this term are we looking out for all student vote, and what can we expect to be taking place during that week?
So the motion deadline is the 20th. So I'm testing my knowledge here because I don't have this written down. It's the 25th. It's 9 a.m. on the 25th. And then it should be I'm stretching my knowledge, but I've just checked now. It'll be week 6 of term where there's the all student vote. It'll be Tuesday to Friday of week 6. I think that was the full answer. So I was racking the backs of my brain there for the dates. That'll be week 6, but there's several opportunities throughout the year for these, so it isn't just a one-off. And if your motion doesn't fails at some point, you can try and put it through again. I would recommend slightly altering it if it got rejected that heavily, but there's loads of chances to come back and redraft things and have a go again with the student population.
So, of course, as well, you mentioned this spring elections earlier on, of course, something taking place, not necessarily to worry about for most students until term 2, but a very significant part of the Warwick calendar. I guess give us a bit of a flavour. What can we expect from these later on in the year?
Well, yeah, I mean, you say students aren't worrying about it now, but we are, well, not worrying, but already working to see how we can, what we can do. Last year was the lowest turnout in full-time officer elections for 10 years. And obviously a lot of that's down to COVID, the lack of physical campaigning, just the lack of general engagement with the students' union. But I think there were wider issues about, the types, different groups that we were really struggling to engage with. I can say within ISU, we've got a working group committee that's meeting every couple of weeks to actually really, plan quite far in advance on how we actually, in terms of our messaging, in terms of how we segment our communications for different roles, in terms of actually really getting out to students and telling them why it's important that they vote in those full-time officer elections, and not to downgrade the elections that are next week, but those are those probably are the more important ones, because those are the people who make up the political leadership of the students' union and are there for a whole year. And having been in this role for nearly 3 months now, we actually have quite a lot of power. We have direct lines to the most important people in the university. So we can really influence and change quite a lot if we want to and if we need to.
Certainly something to be excited by for later on in the year. Of course, there's obviously the all-student votes and the elections that we've mentioned before, but is there anything else that the Students' Union is doing or looking to do to really engage students in its democratic structures this year?
Well, as you said, there's plenty already as you said there, but I think you will see use of more surveys throughout the year, because I think that we got such a good reception to the teaching learning survey that we had last week. So I think when big issues, I think a lot of it is just seeing when issues come up, and that there may be issues. There probably will be, because there always are issues that we haven't foreseen yet, and no one's foreseen. That will come up throughout the year, and we really want people to engage. As I said, that the engagement with the survey we had was the same level of engagement that you'd get with the full-time officer election. So it was really, really great, and we were so happy with the response to that, and I think we want to kind of continue that relationship and really looking like we're not just looking, but that we actually are responsive to what the students' needs that develop throughout the year, that aren't just at one point in the year.
Okay, finally then, Jacob, of course, as we said earlier, it's autumn elections taking place this week. Just very briefly to finish off, when are the deadlines for students to vote this week? So
the deadline's 12 p.m. on Friday. So you've got from Monday 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Friday. And don't leave it to the last minute, because you might log on and your Wi-Fi dies, or you can't find the exact button to click to vote. So make sure you do it in good time. As I said, there'll be a couple of emails, notifications on the Warwick app, and you'll see things on the big screen on the piazza. You'll see things on all our social media outlets, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't know if we're on anything else. Don't think we are. And you'll probably also see lots of people posting on their own social media, because there are, a lot of people standing for positions. So look out for those. I don't know. Sometimes people even do their own paid advertising. We do offer expenses to people in the spring elections for things like Facebook adverts, Instagram adverts, but we don't now. But some people may still put their hands in their own pocket for it. So look out for those as well.
Jacob, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Cheers. And everyone, make sure you vote.
Absolutely. These autumn elections, of course, you have until 12 p.m. this Friday to vote. So make sure you do vote. And as ever, Raw News will be with you every step of the way as we cover the week itself and the results as well from this week's autumn elections. So make sure you're looking out across all of our social medias for that. But as ever, make sure to follow Raw News across social media and Raw 12:51 a.m. as well to keep updated with everything that we're doing. I've been Cam Hall. Thanks for watching.
Across campus, online, and on 12:51 a.m. This is your student radio station.